These are interesting times and challenging in the same breath. Donald Trump's election to the office of president has made the world more interesting. And it's challenging because we live in a time of conflict. Russia and Ukraine are at war, and there appears to be what many are saying is a fragile ceasefire between Hamas and Israel.
War between Ukraine and Russia ending anytime soon? Are we going to see a quieter world out of the phase of wars that we've seen in the last few years? How are you looking at this from a global perspective?
So definitely there is going to be a lot of push by President Trump. And I think a lot has been already written on that. As I mentioned to you, that he certainly looks upon himself as a deal cutter. And the interesting part here will be that India could also be an important player in this, because our Prime Minister is one of the few who has a relationship with both President Putin and President Zelensky. So from what I have picked up, again, this is quite in the open. They are saying that one of the first pushes President Trump after taking over will be to connect with President Putin, and their meeting is expected soon. So the focus will be on getting this sorted out, because do keep in mind that the Russia-Ukraine issue has certainly heated up the world economy and the world security situation. And as if you just heard President Trump speaking a little while back, he very clearly spoke about avoiding a World War III. Now, of course, it didn't mean that the World War III is coming, but what he was trying to imply was that his focus will be in removing these irritants, and Ukraine and Russia will be one of the important foreign policy aspects.
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that be because that's Israel's decision, but as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off, and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
There is also the growing assertiveness of China under Xi Jinping. In this backdrop, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States assumed that much more significance.
भारत-अमेरिका संबंधों, विकसित भारत का मतलब मेक इंडिया ग्रेट अगेन, यानी मीगा। जब अमेरिका और भारत साथ मिलकर काम करते हैं, यानी मागा, मागा प्लस मीगा, तब बन जाता है मेगा पार्टनरशिप फॉर प्रॉस्पेरिटी।
We missed you a lot.
This was Modi's 9th visit to the US since becoming Prime Minister in 2014. He and Donald Trump appear to share a great camaraderie during Trump's previous stint, both when Modi visited the United States in September 2019 and when they attended the Howdy Modi event in Houston, Texas. And of course, when Donald Trump visited India in February 2020, and the schedule included a massive reception at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad in Gujarat. Donald Trump is known to throw up surprises, and it remains to be seen how the relationship now evolves under his second stint as president.
Tariffs has been an area where President Trump has been looking at the Indian tariff structure as well. How do you expect that space to move forward?
Well, President Trump believes in the principle of reciprocity, and he has said in the past that he feels that India's tariffs are much higher than relative to the United States, and he has indicated his concern about that. That was a concern in the previous administration of the president. And so I do think if he follows through on what he has stated, there might be some initial tariffs on Indian imports, whether it'll be all of them or a select area. And it may well be that the Indian government will impose retaliatory tariffs. But I hope that is not the end of the situation, but only the beginning, and it leads to a negotiation that could not only enhance the trade relationship between our two countries, and after all, the United States is the leading trade partner of India, it will require India to lower tariffs in certain areas, but the dialogue should be expanded to include discussions on how India can lock in its benefits of trade with the United States in the services sector, how they can work together on technology, in energy, where the United States, I think, will be happy to increase its energy exports to India and deal with India's energy security issues. And energy is an area where the trade deficit can go down. And even in the defense area, where if India purchases defense items, that also will reduce the trade deficit. So it'll be an area of active discussion. I don't think it will derail the relationship, which is very strong.
Would be heaving a sigh of relief hearing those reassuring words. But Secretary Shringla, there has been bonhomie, there has been a personal chemistry between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. Do you expect this to continue? Do you expect to see a certain shift, considering the fact that President Trump in the previous term, most people figured out that he was not so much as a multilateralism guy as he was a bilateral relations expert. How do you see this complex relationship moving forward?
Well, from what we've seen in the first Trump presidency, Donald Trump attaches a lot of importance to relations with his counterparts. If he can establish a good relationship, if he is, sort of confident that his counterpart is someone who's willing to work with him and take that relationship forward, then it's so much easier, to deal with the priorities that are established on both sides. So I think we saw a very good chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, and that was highlighted during the Howdy Modi event in Houston. That was, I think, October 2019. Ken and I were both there, and that was really an incredible moment when two, world leaders got onto the stage, addressed 50,000 Indian Americans, and then President Trump came to India. I was then Foreign Secretary. Ambassador Juster was in Delhi. We worked on that visit. And again, the high point of that visit was when President Trump addressed 100,000 Indians in the stadium in Ahmedabad. And I think that was a memorable event for President Trump. I'm sure that he attaches a lot of importance to the relationship with India.
The United States and India are strategic partners, having made rapid strides since Bill Clinton's visit to India in 2000. The 5.4 million strong Indian diaspora in the United States has added another dimension to this relationship, and so has the growing clout and influence wielded by Indian Americans in American politics.
फ्रेंड्स, अमेरिका में रहने वाला भारतीय समुदाय हमारे संबंधों की महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी है. हमारे पीपल टू पीपल टाइज को और गहरा करने के लिए हम शीघ्र ही लॉस एंजलिस और बोस्टन में भारत के नए कॉन्सुलेट खोलेंगे. हमने अमेरिका की यूनिवर्सिटीज और शिक्षा संस्थानों को भारत में ऑफशोर कैंपस खोलने के लिए निमंत्रण दिया है.
This was Prime Minister's second visit to the United States in less than 6 months. In September last year, he had visited the country when Joe Biden was president and America was gearing up for a presidential election. Will the Trump era be characterized by continuity or will it be disruptive? There are multiple issues where there could be a difference of opinion. Trump, even during the press briefing with Prime Minister Modi, was critical about India's tariff regime.
And on trade, I have decided for purposes of fairness that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less. In other words, they charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them the exact same tax or tariff. Very simple. Nobody knows what that number is unless you go by the individual country. You can see what it is if you go to the individual country and you look at what they're charging us. In almost all cases, they're charging us vastly more than we charge them, but those days are over.
He has spoken of reciprocal tariffs, but it seems as though the two countries are quite keen on arriving at a consensus on this contentious matter. In 2023, India's bilateral trade with the United States was around $190 billion, where India enjoys a trade surplus.
President Trump reiterated his position on tariffs, reciprocal tariffs. India would be a little circumspect on that score, given the fact that India has missed a bus or two, in getting to a high economic growth rate and getting to a strong economic position. And at this time, something like that could hit Indian businesses hard. Do you think the fact that, 6 months, there's going to be a committee that would work on things, and at least it seems like India has bought 6 months, but do you read too much there? Is it a bit of a softening of stand, or do you think it's inevitable that reciprocal tariffs will come because President Trump is committed to that?
If one thing I can tell your audience and the people of India, don't narrow this down to something that's just so technical. There's a very special relationship, I think, between the United States and India right now, and I think it's only going to get better with President Trump and kind of the populist nationalist movement here. As you know, India is actually, and I keep saying, the key that picks the lock in this geostrategic realignment, particularly against the threat of the Chinese Communist Party and what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do, not just in the Eurasian landmass and just not around India, but also throughout the entire region, and also what they're doing in Latin America and other places. Peter Navarro, I think, said it best. What President Trump's doing, we're trying to do a restructuring of kind of global trade, and to look at, so just don't look at it as tariffs or non-tariff barriers, but President Trump looks at the United States market as kind of premier market, a premium market. To get through the golden door, somehow you're going to have to pay some sort of premium price. Now, there will be strategic deals done with partners, and I think this is where you got to put it in the perspective. President Trump committed yesterday to double trade with India in 5 years. And President Trump doesn't make these things and just throw them out there. This was very well thought through with Peter Navarro, the rest of the economic team, Secretary of Treasury Bessent, other people in the White House. So to say double, I think our trade's about $190 billion today, $200 billion. You're talking about more than double. I think he wants to go to $500 billion in 5 years. That's a tall task. In doing that, the countries have to work together. Now,
the two countries are eyeing a bilateral trade agreement by the fall of 2025, something that would lay the contours of the stated plan to achieve bilateral trade to the tune of almost $500 billion by 2030, more than double what it is now. The other contentious issue is that of deportations of Indians living illegally in the United States. On this, Prime Minister Modi was categorical, pledging to cooperate with the United States.
जहां तक भारत और अमेरिका का सवाल है, हमने हमेशा कहा है कि जो वेरीफाइड होगा कि जो सच्चे अर्थ में भारत का ही नागरिक होगा, वो अगर अमेरिका में गैर कानूनी तरीके से रहता है तो उसको वापस लेने के लिए भारत तैयार है। ये सामान्य परिवारों के बच्चे होते हैं, उनको बड़े बड़े सपने दिखाए जाते हैं और उनको ज्यादातर ऐसे होते हैं उनको गुमराह करके लाया जाता है, और इसलिए ये ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग में जुड़े हुए पूरे इकोसिस्टम पर हमने वार करना चाहिए। और अमेरिका और भारत मिल करके हमारी कोशिश है और हमारी कोशिश रहनी चाहिए कि इस प्रकार की पूरी इकोसिस्टम को हमें जड़ मूल से नष्ट करना चाहिए।
On the defense front, India and the US announced plans to pursue procurement and co-production arrangements for Javelin anti-tank guided missiles and Stryker infantry combat vehicles to meet India's defense requirements. On the issue of H-1B visas, the joint statement did not mention this issue explicitly, but despite opposition to the H-1B among Trump's MAGA supporters, it does not appear as though there will be a climb down on this vis-a-vis India from the Americans. The joint statement read, and I quote, "The leaders committed to streamlining avenues for legal mobility of students and professionals and facilitating short-term tourist and business travel, while also aggressively addressing illegal immigration and human trafficking by taking strong action against bad actors, criminal facilitators, and illegal immigration networks to promote mutual security for both countries."
For improving public procurement in Serbia, $486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova, and $21 million for voter turnout in India. Why are we caring about India turnout? We got enough problems. We want our own turnout, don't we? Can you imagine all that money going to India? I wonder what they think when they get it. Now, it's a kickback scheme. You know, it's not like they get it and they spend. They kick it back to the people that send it, I would say, in many cases. Many of these cases, anytime you have no idea what we're talking about, that means there's a kickback, because nobody has any idea what's going on there. $29 million to strengthen the political landscape in Bangladesh. Nobody knows what they mean by political landscape. What does that mean? $20 million for fiscal federalism and $19 million for biodiversity in Nepal. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. What the hell do I care about? We got a lot. We got enough problems. And all of this is terminated. We terminated this stuff, and we're on the track. And by the way, so many others I could read all night long, but so many were so terrible, and some were actually disgusting. And I know you're eating your dinner, so I didn't want to do that.
Another issue that's making headlines back home in India is the issue of President Trump shutting down USAID. And with all you know, the content on that, worrying around that how USAID was actually, you know, funding organizations of George Soros and using that money to somehow influence elections in India, playing a role on social media. How is this entire issue back home? And do you really think the investigation and disclosures will bring out, frankly, the villains of the piece disturbing democracy?
Look, USAID has been something we've been very focused on for years. It took Elon Musk and the Doge team to really highlight it and be that kind of armor-piercing shell that brought it up. But you should know Trump's base, and particularly the kind of the leadership of this base. We've had USAID in the gun sites for a long time, over a decade. It is totally and completely corrupt. It's done two things. It's funded many NGOs, source-backed NGOs, religious-based NGOs that have really exacerbated or organized the invasion of our southern border. To get 10 to 12 million illegal aliens in our country through the southern border was a highly organized effort. Anything you've seen in the media that looks like chaos at the border, it was not. This is very well thought through by the most radical elements of the Biden regime, the open borders crowd, the NGOs with source money and others, and USAID. It turns out American taxpayers paid for it. Also, the suppression of voices inside our country. Turns out USAID was giving information to all these kind of nefarious groups, very, very kind of dark money groups that were there to suppress, like my show and other shows, right? The voices of President Trump. That's all going to be investigated. Also, it appears to us at first cut that the USAID was a cutout for the CIA, and that's something we don't want. We want to make sure we're very suspect of the Central Intelligence Agency. We're very suspect of the FBI. We are taking down the deep state in this country. The deep state in America turned into a Praetorian Guard where they felt they could choose who the leaders are going to be. That is going to end, and that's and Elon Musk and I disagree on a lot of things. One of the things we do agree on is that there's got to be a major effort to take down the deep state, and USAID, to just be blunt about it, looks like a slush fund for all types of nefarious activities. So what they did on the surface of helping certain food programs or water programs, either sub-Saharan Africa or South Asia, we believe was just kind of cosmetics put on the top to hide what they're going to do. There'll be a thorough investigation. I would be very surprised if USAID existed at all. I'm one of the strongest advocates to shut the whole thing down, and then we should rebuild where we're doing outreach to South Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa. These are legitimate projects that are actually helping people, and the money's going to the people in the region to help them. I think people in the United States would be very much in favor of, but that's not what USAID is today, and it's going to be, I believe, zeroed out, and we'll start over again.
The visit also took place in the backdrop of Trump's announcement freezing USAID funds, and this has since then raised a political storm in India over allegations that funds were funneled into the country to undermine democracy here in the build-up to elections. Subsequent revelations by Elon Musk and Trump's claims about $21 million being allocated to India for voter turnouts has also drawn polarizing reactions back home within the Indian political class. How this evolves remains to be seen, because Trump's fingers are pointing towards the previous Biden administration.
अमेरिकी सरकार की तरफ से, उनके एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की तरफ से ये खुलासा किया गया है कि कुछ यूएसएड की एक्टिविटीज़ और फंडिंग के बारे में ये जो खुलासा किया गया है ये कंसर्निंग है, ट्रबलिंग है, और इसको लेके काफ़ी सारी चिंताएं हैं फॉरेन इंटरफेरेंस को लेके भारत के अपने अंदरूनी मामले में। हमारे यहाँ जो एजेंसीज़ हैं, डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं जो इस मामले में काम करते हैं, कार्यरत हैं, वो इस मुद्दे पर और छानबीन कर रहे हैं और काम कर रहे हैं, और इस वक्त इस समय इस मुद्दे पे कोई भी पब्लिक कमेंट या घोषणा करना मेरे समझ से समयोचित नहीं होगा।
In India, these are all in the realm of claims and counterclaims, and the Ministry of External Affairs, while expressing concern over these matters, has said any public statement right now would be premature. There were plenty of important takeaways from Prime Minister Modi's meeting with President Trump, but 4 years is a long time, and the tenure is likely to get even more interesting.